Hey, hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we have to depart from carnival conversations just a little bit, and we're getting into some politics because, of course, we always have to keep a close eye on what's happening. And just because it's carnival time, just because it's revelry, we can't forget the governance of our island and what happens after and the development of Tobago. So on set with us is none other than former Assemblyman Mr. Max James. So good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank God.
That's great. Great to have you on. Now we are talking about succession planning in the THE, and then want to, right off the bat, just ask you, do you think that within after this past year that there are signals of succession planning coming from this current administration of the THE?
Well, good morning to the viewers. Thanks for having me. I don't think, to be honest, that I have seen the vision. The vision has not been stated because we are talking about a more productive public sector. I think that has been an issue for as long as we can remember. What has the various executive councils done to ensure that we have that kind of public sector delivery, that public sector productivity, so as to make what we do in Tobago better. And this administration, the mantra is the best island in the planet. Mm-hmm. So that I have not seen the vision properly and fully enunciated. So if we're going to talk about succession planning, and that basically is, and that's just for the benefit of the viewers, really is having the right people in the right place at the right times to do the right things to achieve the best results. That's basically what succession planning is. So we don't want to leave that to chance, all right? So that it's just not a question of just training only or knowing the rules and regulations only. It's a combination of efforts buttressed by effective performance management.
Yes.
Right? So that, and I would add effective project management. Those three in particular, under the whole, because they are subsets of the human resource effort. So that we have to get the human resource right. We have to get the vision right. Without a vision, the people perish, as the Bible would say. So that the vision has to be marketed. What really do they want to see?
Yes.
What is the time frame for completing that? How are your recruitment policies, your retention policies, and so forth? So that the chief secretary and his assistant will have to, in my view, quite respectfully, map the vision. Let's get the roadmap going. And the effort has to be sustained. And quite frankly, I haven't seen it at all.
No, we haven't had a very good history when it comes to, having a vision, adopting that vision, and fulfilling that vision. The last time we had a plan in place was that of the CEDP plan. And we had the 1.0 vision and we had a 2.0 vision. It ended in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And we haven't really seen anything since then. There was no sort of accountability as to how well the plan performed, how well we conformed to the plan, whether or not we achieved our goals. What would it take now? I mean, coming from that sort of history and pattern, and a sort of a lackadaisical way that we've been doing things, what would it take now to sort of make that better and to mold people into a way forward?
Well, it's a question of the governance. It's always there. Mm-hmm. I think what has to happen, we have to, in a sort of a way, depoliticize the public service. I think politicians over the years fear losing
An election.
control.
Yes.
Well, not even the election, control. In other words, what they want to hire who they believe that their friends and their personalities when I say their personalities, they hire people who fit with their personalities, which is really bad for the succession planning, right? So the governance issue is really strangling us. So let us go back to the vision, and then from there we need to have the roadmap implemented, put in place. Everybody must know what we're about. That's one of the first things. And then we begin to identify candidates at all levels of the organization or the various divisions, the high potentials, the people who are the high performers, right down to the cleaner, right? People with the right set of competencies, all right? Changing the way we do work, as a do-over, all right? People like, Professor Tiki would say, we must have a pipeline of successes.
Yes.
Everyone should, the persons who are in the pipeline would naturally be your high performers and so forth, so that if the CEO goes on vacation leave, the work doesn't stumble. If the administrator goes on leave, the work doesn't stumble. All right? So everybody is lined up with the various understanding the tasks, the duties, with the right competencies, the right morale. All of that must be linked to the organizational strategic plans.
Yes.
So if we don't know where we're going and we don't have the right sets of persons in place, then, and the effort isn't sustained, then we're looking for trouble. So you find that whether it's a division of works and infrastructure, whether it's a division of agriculture, wherever, health. In fact, when I did my my studies on the TRHA, and if you look, even just a cursory look at the TRHA, you would see from since 1994, I think it is, that they've changed close to about 22 chief executive officers.
And just in Tobago.
And that's just in Tobago, all right? In respect of human resource, general managers, human resource management, we've changed close to about 25. So it means something is wrong in respect of how we do business and how the organizations are run. So if you have your strategic goals of the organization, you have to see how people fit within it. You make the policy, you have your boards do the policy, and you stay back and you meet with them and to see whether, in terms of your evaluation, whether they're doing the work or they're not doing the work. But you can't be involved in who is employed, who is not employed, and so forth. Let that be done from your policy, and then leave the boards and your managers to run the policy, to implement the policy. Now, having said all of that, we remember we're in the public service.
Yes, I want to ask you though, I mean, do you think that we are mature enough in the public service to make those decisions, whether it is to let go people, move people, reassign people, and hire the right people for the correct positions?
That's the trouble, because you have public service regulations that you are duty bound to abide by.
Yes.
Now, for me, in fact, when we were in power, or when I was in office at the time, we were doing something innovative, where we did not promote people from the public sector itself. We brought administrators on contract. Now, there's nothing in the law that says you can't do that, but it's whether this administration and the other and one before the PNM had, as we say, the belly to do that. Now, if you have the belly to do that, based on Act number 8 of 1998, that says the Tobago House Assembly has its own public service, people are afraid to do it. We did it. We brought in our own commissioner of to deal with tongue planner. Tongue country. We just did it. For instance, I brought in somebody from the private sector to function as the commissioner of cooperatives. I just did it. It was perfectly legal. What I'm going to is that we need to change the way in how administrators are appointed. That's the key. We don't want, I can't take a doctor or agriculturist and make that person administrator because they're senior or they've come through some list. You can't take me to go and do surgery, but you're taking a doctor and make him the head of an organization. You want a true manager.
Certainly.
Except the doctor has a master's degree or so in human resource management. So we're starting off wrong in the first place. So we need to select the right. You have to make a decision. We now are not going to promote people based on necessarily on seniority, except they have the competencies. A person who is a fisheries officer, for instance, or who has some kind of qualifications in some area of agriculture or tourism or something, is the wrong person. But we haven't that the person there. Because we don't pay much attention to human resource management and place it in the right zone it should be placed. So anybody becomes administrator and they don't possess the competencies. So for me, I was chief secretary and I was his assistant. We have to begin to start right there. Who do we have at the level of our administration within the respective decisions? We don't want an engineer there. He's very linear. He's not global in thinking and horizontal. They see it straight line, very linear.
Yes.
And therefore, we have to get away from that kind of thinking. We want to introduce a whole new ethos in terms of how we do those, a new culture. And then we'll begin to get the succession planning right for a new and productive public sector. But you had a question.
Yes, I have a question. And I mean, it has to relate to data, because a part of succession planning is having the right data to base your goals, your whatever you want to achieve on. But we're lacking in data here in Tobago. What is the state of our data, and why does that hamper our ability to produce a good plan?
Well, there are two things that happen. I would have intimated to the powers that be is that you have to have your manpower audit going, because you don't know who we have, so you can't recruit properly or train or educate properly to build the competencies that we need going forward to make this a great little island, the greatest little island. So we have to have that in place. You must have that, because right now you're doing things by VAPs. You're whooping, as we say in cricket, right? And we have to stop whooping. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then the last administration would have almost completely disseminated the PRDI. So we don't have data. It's a smattering of information or data that is produced, because PRDI is virtually non-existent. You have a few. So we can't make a strategic plan if you don't have data. You can't develop effective public policy if you don't have data. And you can't perform the public policy if you don't have the competencies that reside in the organization.
Do we as a people care about getting that data, producing that data?
Well, we're not data-driven. Tobago is still emerging, and this administration has a glorious opportunity to begin to do it. And so we have to go back to the drawing board. And as I said before, and I want to re-emphasize it because I'm very serious about it, we have to stop the way in which we find administrators and put them ahead of divisions. Many of them, and I make no bones about it, I hold no brief for anyone, the administrators who are there ought not to be there at all. They don't understand human resource management. They have different competencies, and they should be placed in the areas where they are competent. It's a whole question of Peter's principle, where they reach to the level of incompetence. So many of them are incompetent, and therefore if they're incompetent, then every decision made thereafter will be cockeyed, because you don't have the competencies at the top. The secretaries are skilled in different areas. So you need administrators who are competent in human resource management in order to make the right decisions. And therefore, and you have that succession down to the last person. You have to have the right persons at the supervisory levels. You have to identify what the competencies are, what are the skills levels that need. We have to look at turnover. We have to look at accountability in particular, so that if people are not held to account, then we can't be productive in the public sector. And that's an area we're afraid to discipline, and that's a problem. So if workers know, it's like the murder rate. People will continue to kill because we don't hang people any longer. You want to kill, but you want some people saying, listen, we'll go spare him. We've just taken another human being's life. We are losing about 3 persons a day in the society. But let's get back to the topic, so that I want to urge the Chief Secretary and his secretaries that for a do-over of how we run the public service in Tobago, we have to get the strategic effort in place, planning in place, objectives in place, the vision in place. Every person down to the cleaner or the window dresser, whoever that is, must know what we're about. And that has to be sustained. It has to be properly marketed and sustained towards an effective and productive public sector. But we're not there yet.
Now, seeing that, we did not achieve a lot of the things that were outlined on the CEDP plans, should we revisit that, sort of reword those plans to sort of, suit just the times that we are in now? Because there were good plans that were outlined in that, that document.
So let's take what is good and discard what is not good. But so I would, the Chief Secretary again, I would assemble a team of persons skilled in human resource management, public sector management, public administration, project management, having those competencies in that team to look at what is happening in the public sector here in Tobago, and to establish a do-over, innovative performance management key to that. So another layer can be where, and they have the authority to do it, in terms of rewards. Now, you're looking at competencies, you're bringing people on board with competencies, but we can't properly remunerate them. So people say, the public sector is not enough for me because I'm not being paid for my competencies. So they need to introduce a system within the public sector of employee rewards. How are people rewarded for their competencies outside of this public sector structure of those increments and all of that? So we want to do things innovatively. Just as how you can take the decision to give people an extra payment and all of that, you have the power to do that. So again, what we want to do is to look at our own classification system in the public service, but particularly here in Tobago, and determine how, in terms of ingratiating people, in terms of how we want to reward people and to have people perform optimally, I want to suggest that they may want to look at a new reward scheme within the public sector. That goes a long way. People saying, I'm well paid, so I'm going to perform, right? So once I'm properly remunerated, we're going to perform. But now you can now hold those persons to hold their feet to the fire in terms of achieving your strategic objectives. That's one of the things, but a significant thing that they can embark upon. Innovative public sector management. It must happen, otherwise we're not going to, we're going to fail.
Have you seen any moves in terms of reworking the way that we document what's happening, our appraisals, that sort of thing, to ensure that there is that level of succession planning to the point where, when someone reaches their retirement age, that they don't have to worry. They can get their documents easily. Their retirement is sorted out. Unlike the problems that we have now, where people 5-6 years are yet to receive their remunerations.
Because quite frankly, the system is broken. When the assembly came into being, 1986 thereabouts, people never really understood it. To this day, even some of the secretaries don't understand, and I'm speaking whether PNM or PDP or whatever, don't understand how they're supposed to function vis-a-vis Trinidad. They look to Trinidad for everything. They have not shaken off their swaddling clothes, so to speak, and they look to Trinidad for direction, rather than looking within themselves and within the four walls of the Act, Tobago System Act, for solutions. And so therefore, if you don't know who you are, what you are, you can't succeed. And staff welfare is a critical issue.
Yes.
So if they have to begin to digitize the system properly, and
is that happening?
Well, in not as I would like it.
Okay.
Because people can't, persons are going to retire within the next year, and their pension and leave issues and those kinds of things. Some fall, they move, they lose documents, the data entry system is poor, and so you have significant problems. So again, you don't know who is leaving when they're leaving. I should be able to stay here and type in Candice Hard Questions Jackson, and everything comes up about you.
Yes.
So every single thing. And the proper controls are there so that people can't erase information and data and so forth. So they need to go back to the drawing board and have that really well done and do it quickly. But I haven't heard of it. In a way, I think that gives me confidence that there's significant and quick progress in that regard. It's still way back. You have significant problems in, say, the division of education, teachers who have been acting, who have not, and there's some miscreants within the system who still to this day, some of them may deny it, hide people's documents, people's files, the information is not there.
And how do we treat with that? Because, you mentioned disciplinary action needs to be something that happens. Then what sort of disciplinary action should we take against our public servants who do that, who deliberately leave a file in a drawer? We've heard this story so many times. You're looking for this file for years, and then it's locked away in a cupboard, or it's hidden somewhere. And then, all this time, these people, their lives are affected. They are not able to get that income that is due to them.
Again, who is the administrator? So consequence and accountability is key. We're afraid to, and people say, I hear this argument, which I really find is a nonsensical argument. And once you wash yourself and clothe yourself with doubt and insufficiency and all of you clothe yourself with these kinds of things, what is expected to happen? They say, oh, you can't fire a public officer. It's the easiest thing to do. I have been a trade union officer for more than 30 years. I've been an industrial relation consultant. I've served at all levels. I can spin it anyhow you take it. But you have to follow the process. And you have to have the political will to do it. So I can't have you in my organization. You impsing up the information and data, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and you remain within my employment. It can't happen. So the proper reports must be done. The person must be written to very quickly. Well, after the period of induction and all of that. So they're there. We have to abandon some of the rules of appointment and all of that. But okay, getting back strictly to the point, the person is written to. they have a chance to reply. They may want to bring in their advocate, their trade union, or whoever it is. And you follow the process from there. It is quite simple. Then if you follow the process, all the timelines, and you're steadfast on it, you have to have industrial relations officers and human resource officers who know what to do. But the policy must come down from the administrator, well, of course, from the executive council.
Yes.
See, we want accountability. We want consequence to take place. So once that becomes entrenched in the psyche of the workers, I will be held to account. The administrators are supposed to do their duty. The human resource officers are supposed to do their duty. And within short order, you make examples of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then people will begin to do their work and become very professional in what they do. Because whether administration changed or not, you have these people who are in place to ensure that there's professionalism and that consequence must be part of our culture. We operate as consequences is not important. And therefore, we have to change the whole new, introduce a whole new ethos, a whole new paradigm and culture in the way we run the public service. But public officers can be held to account and very swiftly. I kid you not.
Well, we're hoping for some of that soon because, again, it's all about towards a better Tobago. We all want to see a better Tobago. If we are to be the best island on the planet, man, these things need to be put into action.
But the chief secretary, and finally, I remembered when I was the labor secretary, I introduced a program called MERIT, MERIT, Manpower Enhancement, Reengineering, Initiation and Transformation. But you have to sell it. It was abandoned by the PNM. This administration has not taken it up as yet. Maybe I have to sell it to them. But so you want to transform, you want to enhance, you want to re-engineer. Re-engineering is the critical word there, right? And to get us going in terms of our succession planning, in terms of our productive efforts and so forth. We really need to get that. But the vision has to be sold and sold effectively and sustained for perhaps the next 4, 5, 6 years. So everybody knows that's where we're going. And then you will see the changes that you want. And Tobago is going to be a different place. But it has to be done now and sustained and all of that. Unless we do that, we're wasting time.
Right.
You know?
And unfortunately, we'll have to leave it right there. But I want to thank you so much, Mr. James, for being on with us and to just share with us some of that perspective on succession planning, which is something so crucial, but we don't really pay attention to much here. If we're really honest with ourselves, we don't. But it's something that we need to do.
The Chief Secretary says he wants to make Tobago the greatest island on the planet.
Yes.
So I think he has to take up his bed and walk now.
Yes.
And to be very, very, very forward with what he has envisioned and what he wants to have us say as a chief commander here in Tobago.
And it means making some people uncomfortable, but
Yes.
it goes with the territory.
Yes.
All right. I want to thank you again, Mr. James. It was a pleasure as usual. And viewers, I want to thank you for being with us and for continuing to support us. We appreciate it. So have a wonderful, safe, and productive day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denicia.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new day.